In 2013, a 10-year-old boy, his little brother, and his grandmother were driving on the highway when his grandmother had a heart attack and passed out at the wheel. The 10-year-old boy grabbed the wheel and safely maneuvered them out of traffic, saving not only their lives, but the lives of everyone else on the highway. When police later questioned him about how he was able to pull off this stunt, he answered with Mario Kart. This is a real-life example of how video games have positively affected our thinking that Gabe Zickerman, a video game innovator, shared in a Google Talk. Ever since 1972, when the first Atari was released, video games have been impacting our lives. In 2010, when the game Call of Duty Black Ops was released, within the first month it had been played for the time equivalent of 65,000 years. Whether you're strongly against or have a strong passion for them, video games have played a part in your life. Evidence shows that video games are actually very good for everyone in small doses. That they impact not only the people who play the games by improving skills such as multitasking and problem solving, but also the world around us in business and movies. Multitasking is probably one of the most used skills in our day-to-day lives. In the car while driving, you're listening to the radio, while talking to friends, while watching for the street you need to turn on, while tracking cars and pedestrians around you. Psychologist Chacha Tebokin points out that in games that require strategy, for instance, an unexpected surprise like an enemy might emerge. This forces the player to be flexible and quickly change tactics. Brain scientist Daphne Ravalier proves that by playing action video games, you can actually expand your ability to track objects from about 3 to 4 to 6 or 7. Here is a video of her demonstrating this with a live audience.
To see yellow happy faces and a few sad blue faces. These are children in the schoolyard in Geneva during recess, during the winter. Most kids are happy. It's actually recess. But a few kids are sad and blue because they've forgotten their coat. Everybody begins to move around, and your task is to keep track of who had a coat at the beginning and who didn't. So I'm just going to show you an example where there is only one sad kid. It's easy because you can actually track it with your eyes. You can track, and then when it stops and there's a question mark and I ask you, did this kid have a coat or not? Was it yellow initially or blue? I hear a few yellow, good, so most of you have a brain. I'm now going to ask you to do the task, but now with a little more challenging task. There are going to be 3 of them that are blue. Don't move your eyes, please don't move your eyes. Keep your eyes fixated and expand, pull your attention. That's the only way you can actually do it. If you move your eyes, you're doomed. Yellow or blue? Good. So your typical, normal young adult can have a span of about 3 or 4 objects of attention. That's what we just did. Your action video game player has a span of about 6 to 7 objects of attention, which is what is shown in this video here. That's for you guys, action video game player. They're more challenging, right? Yellow or blue? Blue. We have some people that are serious out there, yeah.
An example of multitasking when playing an action game would be having to balance both long-term and short-term objectives while dealing with any real-life distractions, while communicating with other players if it is multiplayer. In an office, it isn't all that different. You have to balance both long-term and short-term projects while communicating with your coworkers, while dealing with any office or real-world distractions. Another advantage of video games is problem solving. An article titled The Positive and Negative Effects of Video Games by Chacha Tebokin points to a study done by Dr. Ravalier and 2 of her colleagues about how action video games have proven to train your brain to problem solve 25% faster without losing any accuracy. Tebokin talks about how when a child plays a game, The Incredible Machine, Angry Birds, or Cut the Rope, she trains her brain to come up with creative solutions to puzzles and other problems in short bursts. Daphne Ravalier also did a study where she took test subjects and gave them a challenge where they were shown 5 3D models. And then they were asked which one was the rotated version of the first model. They scored right where she expected them for their age. And then, over the course of 2 weeks, she had them play 10 hours of action games. And after the 2 weeks, she tested them again, and their scores were much improved. And then again, after 5 months, that improvement was still there. In our fast-paced world, this skill is becoming more and more essential in our day-to-day lives. Video games stimulate that fast-paced motion kids might not experience in school, but will need in their future careers. Along with the personal benefits that video games give us, they also have more influential benefits in business and entertainment, such as machinima and gamification. In 2003, Burning Burns and a couple of his friends created the first episode of what is now a very popular web series by using the art form called machinima. They took the popular game Halo and gave voices to the characters to create the first episode of Red vs. Blue. Microsoft, the creators of the company, were very well known for suing over copyright issues, but didn't in their case because the web series had become so popular it had given them a source of advertisement that money just couldn't buy. Instead, Microsoft went one step further, and they sponsored them and even added an extra feature in their new Halo game where the characters could lower their guns, which is not necessary in actual gameplay, according to an article by Clive Thompson. They flipped a switch that closed the self-referential loop of movies creating video games that are now creating movies. Another innovation is gamification. Gamification is the process of engaging users and changing behaviors by using the best ideas from video games, loyalty programs, and behavioral economics. Examples of this is Weight Watchers, Alcoholics Anonymous, and Nike Plus. But gamification is not only used to change behaviors, it is also used to promote products for businesses. An example of this is when Autodesk released a gamified version of their free trial for a 3D modeling program, so users could learn how to use the program in a way that kept them engaged, in a way that it didn't feel like they were learning a complicated program. They were playing a game. According to Gabe Zickerman, Domino's also gamified their advertisement by creating an app where you make your pizza step by step, and then you could send it into a Domino's and they would make it and deliver it to you. If you played the game enough and had good enough scores, they would even ask you to apply for a job because you had just learned how to make a pizza. This generated millions of dollars of revenue for them, but they wouldn't say how many people they had hired from it. These are only a few examples of the many things that have spawned from the use of video games throughout history. One of the main complaints parents have against video games is that they are too violent or teaching kids to become violent. Although it is true for the minority, it isn't true for most. According to an article by Mark Fisher and a talk by Gabe Zickerman, they affect everyone differently. But those who are already predisposed have more of a chance of becoming violent after playing violent video games. For instance, if a child grows up in a criminal neighborhood or has abusive parents, they are predisposed to violence and therefore more likely to commit a crime after playing violent video games. Violent video games aren't the biggest factor, but they can play a part. For those who aren't predisposed to violence, those same violent video games can let them vent and work out stress in a safe environment. So it is truly up to the parents to be monitoring their kids' gameplay just as they would TV, movies, books, etc. Another complaint parents have is video games are making kids dumber. It would seem that in a game such as Call of Duty, where the objective is to kill all the zombies, it would make you much less intelligent after playing. But this isn't the case. Chacha Tobokman, a psychologist, proves that video games improve eyesight, quick thinking, hand-eye coordination, planning, multitasking, teamwork, inductive reasoning, and hypothesis testing, taking risks, perseverance, accuracy, strategy, mapping, and so much more. This also proves that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover or a game by its premise. It should now be more clear that video games improve multitasking and problem solving, provided the innovation of machinima and gamification aren't the main factor in people's violence, and don't decrease intelligence. All in all, video games are just as great as kids make them out to be. So maybe next time, instead of criticizing them for playing video games, sit down and try it. And maybe, just maybe, you will see that video games in small doses can be just as healthy as a glass of wine every day. Thank you.